My wife had an affair with my best friend, and to make things worse, my own daughter took their side, calling me paranoid and cruel, until the day I showed them the security footage that exposed everything they'd tried to hide. What I did next left them both speechless, humiliated, and completely unprepared for the consequences. I'm a 39-year-old man, and until just a few months ago, I was convinced I had life entirely sorted. It's quite something how easily existence can pull the rug out from under you, isn't it? Let me begin at the start, because to truly grasp the extent of how I was wronged, you need to understand what I painstakingly built and what they ultimately dismantled. I've been involved in construction since I was 18. I'm not one of those office-bound individuals who've never handled a tool. I began at the very bottom, toiling tirelessly as a basic laborer. Picture sweltering summer days with temperatures soaring to 95 degrees and frigid winter mornings where your fingers become numb even through gloves. Yet, I cherished every moment. There's a profound satisfaction in gazing at a completed structure, knowing your effort and dedication brought it to fruition. I ascended through the ranks the traditional way, mastering every facet of the trade while attending night classes in construction management after full days on site. Today, I'm a senior project manager, overseeing multi-million-dollar developments across 3 states. I constructed my first company house at 25, sold it for a substantial gain, and continued to advance from there. My current team would go to great lengths for me because they're aware I've performed every task they do, and I still readily assist when work needs to be done. I met my wife, Anna, who is 40, when I was 19. She worked at a local diner where we, the construction crew, would often grab breakfast before heading to our jobs. Back then, she was truly remarkable. Long brown hair, a smile that could illuminate the entire establishment, and she never seemed bothered by my work boots, often still grimy from the previous day. It took me 3 weeks to gather the courage to ask her out. My friends were actually wagering on whether I'd back down, which just goes to show how long I've had questionable taste in companions, but that's a different story for another time. We dated for 2 years, and then had a modest wedding ceremony. Nothing extravagant, but it was perfect for us. Anna claimed she didn't need an expensive wedding. She simply wanted to embark on our life together. Man, what a complete fabrication that turned out to be in hindsight. Our daughter, Emma, arrived soon after, and those initial years were challenging but rewarding, you know? I was often working 12-hour shifts, sometimes 6 days a week, returning home utterly exhausted but filled with pride because I was providing for my family. I even launched a side business doing residential renovations on weekends. Anna used to pack my lunches and occasionally bring Emma to the site so I could see them during those long workdays. I recall Emma, at 4 years old, wearing a tiny plastic hard hat I'd bought her, helping me measure timber. Those memories are agonizing now, given how things unfolded. When our son, Jack, arrived 8 years later, I had already advanced to site supervisor. I finally had enough savings to purchase Anna the larger house she had desired. I won't deny it, I was incredibly proud to be able to give her that, for bedrooms, a spacious yard, even a 3-car garage where I store my tools and my weekend project, a '69 Mustang I've been restoring. Let me illustrate what I cultivated over 18 years of marriage. A custom home in a desirable neighborhood, check. Children in excellent schools, check. Summer vacations annually, check. Certainly, I might not have been the most refined individual. I still sometimes track dirt indoors, my hands are perpetually calloused, and yes, I prefer beer to wine. But I provided them with a truly good life. Jack is 14 now, Emma is 20. I enrolled both children in private school because Anna insisted they required the finest education possible. I funded Emma's elaborate art classes and Jack's travel soccer team. I never refused them anything they needed. Emma is currently in college. Guess who's covering that $40,000 a year tuition? This unrefined construction worker. I'm not trying to sound bitter here, all right? Perhaps I am a little, but I need you all to comprehend the sacrifices I made to afford them a comfortable existence. In those early years, I'd work in 100-degree heat all day, then head to night classes, fueled by energy drinks and sheer determination. I missed my sister's wedding because we had a crucial project deadline. I even worked through pneumonia once because the crew depended on me. Every hardened patch on my hands, every mark, every aching joint. It was all worthwhile because I was constructing a future for my family. I even managed to accumulate a respectable financial reserve, nearly $800,000 in various investments. Anna never had to concern herself with money. She could purchase anything she wished. Heck, she even had her own discretionary spending account that I deposit $2,000 into every month. Yes, you read that correctly. $2,000 a month, solely for her to spend as she pleased, no questions asked. I suppose that wasn't sophisticated enough for her either. Looking back now, I can see I was so fixated on providing everything they desired that I overlooked the warning signs. I was too preoccupied building aspirations to notice they were morphing into misfortunes. That's the peculiar thing about being a builder. You become so engrossed in creating something robust and stable that sometimes you neglect to inspect the foundation for fissures. Anna's transformation wasn't sudden. In retrospect, it's like observing a time-lapse of wood decay. It begins subtly, barely perceptible. Then abruptly your entire base is compromised. It commenced about 2 years ago, right after I secured the most significant project of my career, a $50 million commercial development that would secure our family's financial future indefinitely. You'd assume she'd be proud, wouldn't you? Her husband earning executive-level income, doing honest work. No. Instead, she began making subtle remarks about how I was always covered in dust or how I didn't quite fit in with her new social circle. You see, Anna had started working at a chic boutique downtown, peddling overpriced garments to affluent, bored homemakers. She didn't require the income. Her entire annual salary was less than my quarterly bonus. But she claimed she needed intellectual stimulation and to discover herself. The first major red flag was the gym membership. Not your typical community center type of place, no? It had to be an exclusive fitness studio that cost more per month than my initial car payment. She started attending 5 days a week, always returning home showered and impeccably made up. Thinking about it now, I'm fairly certain she wasn't exercising the entire time, if you catch my drift. Then came the phone issue. Anna used to leave her phone anywhere, never caring if I picked it up. Suddenly, she had this vice-like grip on it. The passcode changed, constantly texting with a subtle smirk on her face. If I entered the room, she'd flip it over faster than a pancake. She claimed she was just chatting with her boutique friends. Yeah, right. Emma, our daughter, began adopting her mother's new demeanor. She used to be my little girl, always eager to assist me in the garage, knowing every tool by name. Now, abruptly, she was mortified that her father was a blue-collar worker. She started making snide remarks about how her friends' fathers all held respectable office positions, as if constructing things that genuinely matter wasn't respectable enough for her anymore. Anna stopped cooking about a year ago, stating she was too exhausted from work. She started ordering these elaborate meal prep services instead, $300 a week for what appeared to me like birdseed. I offered to grill or prepare my mom's lasagna recipe, which they used to adore, but apparently, that wasn't sophisticated enough anymore. One evening, I returned home from a 14-hour day overseeing a critical concrete pour and discovered them eating sushi in front of the television. They hadn't even saved me a plate. When I made myself a sandwich, Anna actually complained about the odor of my work clothes. 20 years of those same work clothes providing for us, and suddenly they were an issue. The true blow came when Anna began redecorating the house. Everything I had crafted with my own hands, the custom kitchen cabinets, the hand-carved mantelpiece, the built-in bookshelves, she wanted to replace with some modern, minimalist absurdity. She spent $15,000 on a designer sofa that resembled something you'd find in a dentist's waiting room. The very couch I later caught them on, but that's a topic for the next segment. My garage was my final refuge. Every weekend, I'd be out there working on the Mustang, teaching Jack about engines and bodywork. Anna used to kiss me even when I was covered in grease. Now, she started parking her new Lexus, which I paid for, on the street because the garage was too untidy. She complained about the noise when I was working out there, claiming the neighbors probably considered us low class because of my project car. Even our intimate life deteriorated. It used to be passionate, spontaneous. She never minded getting a little dirty with me. Before last year, nothing. Always had a headache, was too fatigued, needed to wake up early for yoga. I should have realized she was conserving her energy for someone else. The worst part? I rationalized all of it. I convinced myself she was going through a phase, perhaps a midlife crisis. I worked even harder, thinking if I could just provide more, be more successful in her estimation, she'd revert to being the woman I married. I bought her jewelry, planned surprise weekend getaways, which she usually canceled at the last minute due to work obligations. Jack, though, he saw it. My son has good instincts. He started spending more time in the garage with me, less time around his mother and sister. One day, he looked at me and said, "Dad, why are you trying so hard? They don't even appreciate it." Wise words from a 14-year-old, but I was too oblivious to heed them. I kept thinking about the Anna I married. The woman who used to pack my lunch every day, who'd run her fingers through my hair even when it was full of sawdust, who used to boast to her friends about how her husband built things with his own hands. The woman who used to say she was proud of my calluses because they were proof of how diligently I worked for our family. That woman was long gone, supplanted by someone I no longer recognized. I should have anticipated it when she started spending every weekend with her new sophisticated friends. It was always wine tastings, art galleries, ridiculous meditation retreats. Meanwhile, I was working overtime, managing crews, dealing with suppliers, ensuring our family's future was secure. But apparently, that wasn't sufficient anymore. She required someone who could discuss fine wines and modern art, not someone who could construct a house from the ground up. This is where everything truly went awry. I have a friend, Marcus. Marcus and I go way back to trade school. While I remained in construction, he ventured into real estate, always asserting how he was elevating himself above the trades. I should have recognized the warning signs when he appeared at my door 3 months ago, driving a leased BMW. I discovered that later, and wearing a timepiece that cost more than most people's monthly mortgage. He claimed he had lost his real estate license in his home state due to some misunderstanding with the board and needed a place to stay while he re-established his business here. Looking back, I'm fairly certain he was caught running some sort of fraudulent scheme, but I was too trusting to investigate further. That's what true friends do, right? Help each other out when they're struggling. Let me describe this individual to you. About my height, but half the muscle. One of those gym enthusiasts who only focuses on his glamour muscles. He always wore impeccably tailored suits that likely cost more than my crew earns in a month. He possessed a way of speaking that made everything sound like a humble brag. Oh, this old thing? Just a modest Rolex I acquired. But then he'd add, but man, your calluses truly demonstrate what genuine work looks like. As phony as a $3 bill, but my wife and daughter devoured that nonsense. The first night he stayed with us, he brought over some expensive wine and began discussing his investment strategies. Anna was hanging on his every word as if he were Warren Buffett himself. Emma too. Both of them giggling at his silly jokes, inquiring about his worldly escapades. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there contemplating the 3 construction projects I'm juggling that are actually putting food on the table. Marcus stayed in our guest room for 2 weeks, 2 weeks that altered everything. Every morning, he'd descend in his designer sleepwear. Who on earth buys $200 pajamas? Making espresso in a fancy machine he'd brought with him. He started instructing Anna on proper coffee appreciation, as if the diner coffee we used to love wasn't good enough anymore. During those 2 weeks, I observed this serpent charm my family right under my nose. He'd take Anna and Emma shopping, claiming they needed to update their style. He began discussing investment opportunities with Anna, even though I managed our finances perfectly well. He always had some pretext for why they needed to meet for lunch or coffee to discuss business opportunities. The way he insinuated himself into my family's good graces was something out of a manipulation manual. He'd commend Anna's inherent sophistication and tell her she was wasted in that boutique. He told Emma she possessed model potential and that she should consider upgrading her social circle. Real subtle, right? But here's what truly bothers me. While he was playing Mr. Sophisticated with my wife and daughter, he was attempting to maintain the old buddy act with me. He'd come out to the garage, beer in hand, reminiscing about the old days. He even tried to offer me advice on my Mustang restoration, as if he'd ever turned a wrench in his life. One Saturday, I'm beneath the Mustang, replacing the transmission, which I rebuilt myself, by the way. Marcus emerges, his designer shoes likely getting soiled for the first time ever, and starts telling me how I should think bigger. He says, "You're wasting your potential in construction. With your experience, you could be so much more. Like, building things that last isn't worth doing if you can't do it in a suit." I later discovered he was telling Anna the same thing. That I was stuck in my ways, that I lacked ambition. Rich coming from a man who was essentially couch surfing at 40. But Anna, she started looking at me differently after that. She began making comments about how I could achieve more if I just applied myself differently. The real insult? He started showing up at my job sites, impeccably dressed, talking to my crews about investment opportunities. I found out he was attempting to persuade them to invest in some real estate scheme of his. I had to shut that down quickly. These are decent men with families to support, not pawns in his games. Jack was the only one who saw through him from day one. My son has better instincts than I ever did. One night, after Marcus had taken Anna and Emma to some wine tasting event while I was working late to finish a project, Jack said to me, "Dad, that guy's a fake, like those counterfeit watches they sell on the street." I wish I'd listened to him sooner. Even my dog didn't trust him. Kaiser, my German shepherd, usually adores everyone, but around Marcus, he wouldn't stop growling. I should have trusted my dog's judgment. They say animals can detect bad character. Kaiser knew he was a snake before any of us realized it. After those 2 weeks, Marcus found a place of his own, or so he claimed. It turned out later it was a short-term rental, far beyond his means. But by then, he had deeply embedded himself. He started appearing at our house when I was at work, always with some excuse about needing to speak to Anna about business opportunities or wanting to mentor Emma about her future. I know what you're thinking. How could I be so naive? Trust me, I ask myself that every single day. But when you've known someone for 20 years, when they've stood beside you at your wedding, when they've witnessed your children grow up, you don't want to believe they could betray you like that. I had been noticing peculiar things around the house for weeks. Tools moved in my garage when I hadn't touched them, the pool temperature being warmer than I'd left it. Minor details that wouldn't mean much to most people. But when you've spent your life paying attention to specifics on construction sites, you notice when things are amiss. So, I did what any man with access to security equipment would do. I installed cameras. Not the cheap items from big box stores, but professional-grade equipment I acquired through my construction contacts. Cameras that could capture every angle of the house, inside and out, including concealed ones, because something in my gut told me I needed to be strategic about this. The setup was flawless. Everything fed directly to my phone with motion alerts and cloud backup. It cost me a considerable sum, but as they say in construction, measure twice, cut once. I also installed a GPS tracker on Anna's car. Yeah, I know how that sounds. But when you're responsible for millions in construction equipment, you learn a thing or two about tracking assets. Here's where it gets interesting. Last Thursday, I'm at the site conducting final inspections on a major commercial project. We had been working tirelessly for weeks to finish ahead of schedule, and we were finally in the home stretch. My phone vibrates. Motion alert from the pool camera. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the middle of a weekday. No one should be home. I check the feed, and there's Marcus's BMW pulling into my driveway, the one I paved myself last summer. Anna's car is already there. She was supposed to be at work. My hands were trembling so violently I could barely hold the phone, but I kept watching. They're heading to the pool area, all smiles and physical contact. Marcus is carrying a bottle of something, probably one of his expensive wines he loves to flaunt. Here's the clincher. They're using the pool key that I had misplaced 3 weeks ago, the one Anna claimed she'd help me search for. I inform my foreman I have a family emergency, jump into my truck, and the entire 20-minute drive home, I'm observing them on my phone at red lights. They're getting intimate in my pool, the one I designed and built with my own 2 hands last summer, 60 grand in custom stonework and heating systems, and this snake is using it to seduce my wife. But I'm not foolish. In construction, you learn to document everything. So I'm recording all of this, saving every bit of footage. Years of dealing with contract disputes taught me the value of solid evidence. I pull up to my house as quietly as possible, park around the corner where they can't see my truck, and enter through the garage using the silent mode I'd installed on the door, another unnecessary upgrade Anna had complained about. I can hear them laughing and splashing through the patio doors. My hands are shaking, but not from fear, pure fury. But here's where 20 years of managing construction sites pays off. I've learned to maintain composure in crisis situations. When you're responsible for multi-million-dollar projects and dozens of workers' safety, you learn to think before you act. So instead of rushing out there, I take a moment, set up my phone to record, and ensure I have multiple angles covered. Then I walk out to my back patio, as calm as if I'm conducting a routine site inspection. And there they are, Marcus and Anna, all over each other in my pool. They don't even notice me at first, too engrossed in their embrace, like teenagers at a pool party. Marcus sees me first. Man, I wish I had a picture of his expression. All that fake sophistication vanished in an instant. He literally shoves Anna away, scrambling to exit the pool as if it's teeming with sharks. Brother, this isn't. I can explain. Yeah, sure you can, buddy. Anna, she immediately goes into attack mode, screaming about how I'm never home, how Marcus understands her needs, how I'm emotionally unavailable. Rich coming from someone who's currently very physically available in my pool with my supposed best friend. The best part? Remember those cameras I installed? They captured everything, including the 5 other times they'd used my pool while I was at work, the times they'd snuck into my garage for their little rendezvous, all of it in crystal clear 4K with audio. Marcus attempts to grab his belongings and flee, but I'm blocking the gate. He's standing there in his expensive swim trunks, probably realizing that his designer watch isn't waterproof after all. Move, he says, trying to sound tough. 20 years of construction work versus his Pilates classes. Yeah, good luck with that, buddy. I just smile and hold up my phone, displaying the live feed from all the cameras. Got enough footage here to produce a film, I tell them. Wonder what your real estate clients would think, or the licensing board in your new state. Anna's face turns ashen. She starts babbling about how it's not what it looks like and how we can work this out, as if I'm some contractor she can negotiate with over change orders. Marcus, the coward, actually tries to invoke the old friendship card. Think about our history, man. Don't do anything crazy. I laugh, actually laugh out loud. A history like the history of these videos? Or the history of you attempting to defraud my workers with your investment schemes? Or perhaps the history of you hitting on my daughter when you thought no one was observing? Yes, I had footage of that too. Caught him getting too familiar with Emma during one of their mentoring sessions. Saved that little piece of evidence for later. Always good to have contingency plans in construction. I instruct them both to leave my house. Marcus starts collecting his items, but I stop him. The Rolex stays, I say. Consider it your initial payment for pool usage fees. He actually removes it and places it on the table. I guess he didn't want me sharing those videos after all. The aftermath of catching them was like witnessing a foundation crack during an earthquake. Everything you believe to be solid simply fractures. The subsequent few days in that house felt like traversing a war zone, with battle lines drawn that I never imagined I'd see within my own family. The first person I confided in was Jack. He deserved to hear it from me, not through gossip or social media. I found him in the garage that evening, actually working on the Mustang's carburetor, just as I had taught him. The kid took one look at my face and knew something was amiss. I sat him down on my workbench, the same one I'd constructed when he was just learning to walk, and recounted everything. You know what my son did? He embraced me. 14 years old, at that age where most children are too cool to display emotion, and he simply wrapped his arms around me and held on tightly. When he pulled back, he had an expression in his eyes I'll never forget, part anger, part resolve. "They're dead to me," he said, with a maturity that both shattered my heart and filled me with pride simultaneously. Emma was an entirely different narrative. She returned home from her college classes to find me changing the locks. The first thing you learn in construction: secure the site. She inquired what was happening, so I showed her the footage, all of it. The pool, the garage, everything. You know what she said? "Dad, you're overreacting. They're in love. These things happen. In love, these things happen." My own daughter defending the man who helped devastate her family. She actually had the audacity to claim that Marcus was more emotionally available than me, that he understood her generation better, that perhaps if I hadn't been so fixated on manual labor and tried to elevate myself, Mom wouldn't have needed to seek elsewhere. The next few days were a blur of attorneys, phone calls, and observing my family choose sides. Anna relocated to a hotel, weeping about how I was being unreasonable and how we could work through this. Emma went with her, of course, stating she couldn't tolerate being around my negative energy. She told me I was toxic for not being willing to forgive and move forward. But here's where it gets even better. Emma started defending Marcus to anyone who would listen. She claimed he was helping her network and showing her a better way of life. She started posting on social media about how love doesn't follow conventional rules and how true connections transcend traditional relationships. The mental gymnastics this girl was performing could have earned an Olympic gold medal. My crew at work, they supported me completely. Word spread about Marcus attempting to defraud them with his investment schemes. And let's just say he's no longer welcome on any construction site in the tri-state area. My foreman, Mike, actually offered to have some guys talk to Marcus. I had to decline that. When you've poured as much concrete as I have, you understand there are some matters better left unsaid. The most agonizing part was watching Emma transform into a miniature version of what Anna had become. She started dressing differently, speaking differently, acting as if the past 20 years of family life were somehow beneath her. One day, she came to retrieve more of her belongings, walked into the garage where Jack and I were working on the Mustang, and actually wrinkled her nose. "God, how can you stand the smell of grease?" she said. "This is why Mom left, you know. You never wanted to improve yourself." Jack didn't even glance up from the engine. "No, Emma," he said, hands steady as he adjusted a valve. "Mom left because she's shallow, and you're turning out just like her, my boy." Speaking a truth that cut like a welding torch. The house felt different after they departed, emptier, but somehow less oppressive. Jack and I settled into a routine. I started teaching him more about construction, brought him to some job sites. He possesses a natural aptitude for it. He can interpret blueprints better than some of my seasoned guys. Every evening, we'd work on the Mustang together, discussing everything and nothing. Genuine conversations, not the artificial social chatter Anna and Emma had grown so fond of. One night, about a week after everything erupted, I found Jack sitting in the garage, looking at old family photographs. There was one of all of us at the beach years ago, Anna and Emma building a sandcastle while Jack helped me set up the umbrella. He looked at me and asked, "Dad, were they always like this and we just didn't see it, or did they change?" The most difficult question I've ever had to answer. I told him the truth. Sometimes people reveal their true selves when they believe they've found something superior, like when you strip old paint from a wall and discover the decay beneath. The neighbors also took sides. The Johnsons next door, whom I'd assisted with their basement flooding last year, were suddenly too busy to greet us. But Mike down the street, whose roof I repaired after that major storm, now brings over beer every Friday. He says his door is always open if we need anything. Let me tell you what transpired when Anna and Emma moved in with Marcus, convinced they were elevating their lives. Let me paint you a picture of their magnificent new existence. Marcus had leased a luxury apartment in the upscale part of town, one of those places with a doorman and a rooftop pool. I later discovered he was paying $4,500 a month in rent, far beyond his means. But my soon-to-be ex-wife and daughter believed they had struck gold. Anna actually texted me pictures of the place, as if she were trying to prove how much better off she was. See what we were missing, she wrote. This is what sophistication looks like. Yes, sophistication built on borrowed money and deceit, as they would soon discover. The first few weeks, they were all over social media. Anna was posting images of their wine-tasting evenings and cultural discussions. Emma was sharing snapshots of herself by the rooftop pool, talking about her elevated lifestyle and how she was finally among people who appreciate the finer things. The comment section was filled with their new sophisticated friends congratulating them on their brave choice to pursue authentic happiness. Through my construction contacts, we know everyone in this town, including high-end real estate agents. I kept tabs on what was truly happening. Marcus's real estate license application was stalled in review. It turns out his misunderstanding in his home state was actually a fraud investigation. He wasn't closing any deals, just burning through whatever cash he had left trying to maintain his extravagant image. But Anna and Emma, they were too busy playing house in their new sophisticated world to notice the emerging cracks. Anna quit her job at the boutique, claiming it was beneath her now that she was with Marcus. She started calling herself an influencer and attempting to build a social media following, posting lengthy rants about finding yourself and living authentically. Quite rich coming from someone who abandoned their 14-year-old son. Emma dropped 2 classes at college, stating she needed time to focus on her personal growth. She started dressing in these designer clothes Marcus bought her, acting as if she was born into wealth instead of being raised by a hard-working construction worker. One day, she came to collect more of her belongings from our house, wearing a watch that cost more than my first truck. When Jack inquired where she got it, she merely smirked and said, "Marcus knows how to treat a lady, right?" The real estate agents I knew started informing me of Marcus's desperate maneuvers. He was attempting to put together deals with no money down, promising returns he couldn't deliver. He started soliciting investments from his sophisticated friends for his schemes, even tried to get Anna to persuade me to invest some of our retirement savings in his latest venture. Yeah, good luck with that, buddy. About 2 months into their new life, the fissures began to show. Their credit card was declined at an upscale restaurant my friend owns. He informed me later. Marcus dismissed it as a banking error, but I knew the truth. He was depleting cash faster than a poorly insulated house consumes heating oil. Anna started contacting mutual friends, asking to borrow money for temporary cash flow issues, claiming it was just until Marcus's big deals came through. These are the same friends who sided with her during the separation, thinking she had advanced in the world. Now they were witnessing the reality, one bounce check at a time. Emma's social media posts also started becoming desperate, less about living her best life and more about seeking opportunities. She started trying to sell these dubious diet products online, calling herself an entrepreneur. The same girl who used to ridicule my dirty construction money was now hawking miracle weight loss teas on Instagram. The breaking point arrived when Marcus's BMW was repossessed right from their fancy apartment's parking garage. Anna called me in tears, not to apologize, but to ask for money. She claimed it was for Emma's tuition, but I knew better. I told her the tuition was already paid directly to the school. One of the first things I did after the split was ensure Jack and Emma's education was secure. "You don't understand," she sobbed. "We're just having a temporary setback. Marcus has these amazing deals lined up." I cut her off right there. I told her I had learned enough about Marcus's amazing deals to know they were as fake as his Rolex. Yes, it turns out that expensive watch he left by my pool was a counterfeit. The best part? Their sophisticated friends started abandoning them one by one. It turns out the upper crust isn't so amicable when you can't cover the dinner bill anymore. All those people who praised their brave choices suddenly had other plans when Anna tried to organize their weekly wine tastings. But they were still clinging to their fantasy. Anna continued posting about their amazing life, even as Marcus's credit cards repeatedly got declined. Emma was still playing the role of sophisticated stepdaughter, even though she had to start selling her designer clothes online to afford rent. Now, this is precisely how their perfect little world crumbled. It was a typical Tuesday night. I was in the garage with Jack, teaching him how to weld. The kid is a natural, by the way. My phone starts buzzing incessantly with calls from Anna. Normally, I'd ignore them. I'd been doing that for months. But something about the frequency made me suspect something was amiss. 15 missed calls in 20 minutes isn't normal, even for her. When I finally answered, I could barely comprehend her through the sobbing. I had to tell her 3 times to slow down and breathe. Then it emerged. She had returned home early from her influencer meeting, essentially her sitting in Starbucks taking selfies with overpriced coffee, and discovered Marcus and Emma engaged in intimate activity on their designer couch. The same Marcus who'd been playing Daddy Dearest, buying her designer clothes and promising to guide her career. The same Emma who'd scorned me for working with my hands, who'd called me toxic and unsophisticated. There they were, entangled on the couch that probably hadn't even been paid for yet. According to Anna, once she could speak coherently, this hadn't been a one-time occurrence. She found messages dating back months. All those career mentoring sessions. Yes, they weren't discussing job opportunities. While she was out attempting to build her social media brand, her boyfriend and daughter were constructing something else entirely. The best part? When she confronted them, neither even attempted to deny it. Marcus, that snake, actually stated they were in love and that Emma understood him on a deeper level. Familiar, the same lines he used about Anna when I caught them. I guess his sophisticated vocabulary doesn't include many original phrases. Emma, she looked Anna directly in the eye and said, "Well, Mom, these things happen when you pursue authentic happiness, right?" Throwing Anna's own words back at her from when she defended their affair to me. Now that's what I call karma. Anna was hysterical on the phone, pleading with me to help her. She said she finally understood how I felt that day at the pool, asked if she could come home, if we could try again for our family's sake. She said she'd made a terrible mistake, and now she knew what truly mattered. You know what I did? I laughed. Not a joyful laugh, more like what you do when something is so utterly messed up it transcends sadness and circles back to being darkly humorous. I told her she and Emma had made their choices. They chose superficiality over substance, appearances over loyalty. Now they could live with those choices. But it gets better. Remember all those amazing business deals Marcus had arranged? It turns out the only thing he was investing in was his image. Anna discovered they were 3 months behind on rent for that luxury apartment. All those designer clothes and expensive dinners, maxed out credit cards, and borrowed money. The next day, Emma tried calling me. When I finally answered, she was entirely defensive, claiming I couldn't judge her because I didn't understand sophisticated relationships, that what she had with Marcus was different and special, that he saw her as an equal, not just some kid. I told her that Marcus had probably said all the same things to her mother and asked her how it felt to be the newer model in his pattern of trading up. She hung up on me. Truth hurts, doesn't it, princess? Jack's reaction when I told him? The kid didn't even appear surprised. He simply said, "Guess all that sophistication didn't include loyalty, huh?" Then went right back to welding. My son possesses wisdom beyond his years. The aftermath was beautiful to observe. Anna and Emma had to vacate the luxury apartment. It turns out Marcus had been deceptive about paying the rent. Their sophisticated friends vanished faster than concrete cures in summer heat. All those social media followers witnessed quite a spectacle when Emma and Anna started posting vague messages about betrayal and toxic masculinity. Marcus, he fled town when his real estate scam began catching up with him. Last I heard, he's attempting to pull the same routine in another state, leaving Anna and Emma with a mountain of debt and some worthless investment paperwork. They're residing in a 2-bedroom apartment across town now, trying to mend their mother-daughter relationship. Anna tried visiting the house again last week, weeping about how sorry she was, how she'd learned her lesson. Emma sent me a lengthy text about how she was young and confused, and Marcus had taken advantage of her vulnerability. Jack and I, we're doing perfectly fine. The Mustang is almost complete. It turns out all those hours in the garage were excellent therapy. My construction company is expanding. I just secured a $10 million contract. Jack is discussing studying engineering after high school. He wants to design the buildings I construct. I recently started seeing a woman, Rachel, a structural engineer I met on one of my projects. She sometimes has dirt under her nails and understands more about load-bearing walls than wine pairings. Jack likes her. He says she's real. Coming from him, that's high praise. Sometimes I look at old family photographs and ponder how it all went so wrong. But then I recall what my old foreman used to say. Sometimes you have to demolish something weak to construct something stronger.